Venom.
That's the only thing that makes the movie good is their bond and the way they are with each other.
If I was to compare it to the three Spider-Mans that we've had, right? Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, and
Mm.
Tobey Maguire. In my opinion, if you was to say what tone would it suit best,
Like when you look at it in the comic books, he has this heavy feel to himself.
so that scene was only there to move the story forward. And I was like, that was, for me personally, that was basic.
Eddie, I'm with you to the end.
What's happening, people? Welcome back to the Brothers Geek Out movie review. And today we are reviewing Venom: The Last Dance. This is the third installment of Sony's Marvel Venom universe. Just to give a quick introduction of this movie, I mean, if you haven't seen it already, first of all, guys, this is a spoiler review. So if you haven't seen the movie, maybe you want to come back to this later. But just to give you a quick introduction and give respects to the creators behind this movie. But this is the last dance and the last movie of this Venom Marvel slash Sony universe. So it's blending, if you haven't seen Venom, it's blending the elements of comedy, horror, and that superhero kind of storytelling. So it follows the character Eddie Brock and this host alien Venom symbiote, right? I'm sure you're all familiar with this as Marvel fans and whatnot. But in this one, he's supposed to face his darkest challenge yet. There's a lot about sacrifice. There's a lot of relationship between these two. Yes, they've been building a relationship between these two in the first two movies, but this one kind of gives it higher stakes because at the end of the movie, like I said, it's all about survival. It's all about sacrifice. You know, we'll get to the end of the movie. We'll get into the nitty-gritty with that. But that's the kind of premise of this movie. It does introduce the Venom symbiote god Knull, and it is based around him trying to get free, the story of that, and we'll see where it takes us further from there. But we'll get more into the movie. But just to give shout outs to some of the creators behind it. So the director was Kelly Marcel, who's writing the Venom movies, also with 50 Shades of Grey and other movies like that. Other writers was Tom Hardy was a part of this, of the writing of the story. Some of the cast, as you know, Tom Hardy, who played Eddie Brock in Venom. We had Chiwetel Ejiofor. He came up last time. I can't pronounce the brother's name, man, but he was playing the general, the Strickland. I think his name was Strickland. You had Juno Temple, who was Dr. Teddy Payne. You had
Hmm.
Rhys Ifans Martin, who was Lizard in The Amazing Spider-Man, who played, sorry,
Yeah, yeah,
Rhys
that's right.
Ifan,
Yeah.
who was mine, he was Lizard in The Amazing Spider-Man. You had Stephen Graham, who was the detective, who was also in this as well, who replayed his role again, but we'll get into that. So again, we're going into spoiler territories, and the plot of this movie, as well as what I discussed earlier on, the main plot was about Knull, the symbiote king, trying to get free from the chains that the symbiotes put him in at one point. Venom turns out to be um, the codex that he needs to get free. And apparently, you know, when I think Eddie died in, I think it was part two, that
Mm.
somehow created the codex for Null's freedom. So that ultimately is about that.
Part one.
When
Part one.
that was part one. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what he created, that he was the codex. So this movie is about basically Null trying to well, Venom is the codex when he's in full form. So Null is sending out these little like I guess his army to get hold of Venom and to get the codex. It starts straight after Spider-Man No Way Home. Which is great, you know, it's a great take to that, which is always fun. This story does go a lot into, like I say, the relationship between Eddie and Venom. Like they built that relationship for so many years because of the way, even in the title of this movie saying it's the last dance. I think they spent a lot of time with conflict of interest, not really conflict of interest, conflict of life, I guess, in this movie between
Yeah.
those, right? And sacrifice and what they kind of mean to each other. And you see that by the movie. And those are some of the good elements of the movie. I mean, look, we're gonna give our honest review, but I would say so those are some of the good elements. And then there was this whole secret military and scientists, you know, that were collecting all the symbiotes over the years and whatnot. So I think the timeline of this movie was within a year, I believe. I think they said it was within a year, if I
Yeah, that's right.
remember.
Within a year. Yeah.
Yeah, so very interesting. They done a three-part trilogy within a year, which also linked into Spider-Man No Way Home, all that sort of stuff, which is great. We will get into spoiler territory and Easter eggs after and whatnot, but that was the main sort of premise of the movie. Let's get into character development. So analyzing Venom, Eddie Brock, character growth, motivations, and new layers of their relationship. What did you think, Kibbs? Like after three movies with them two, what this third one, how do you think it grew their relationship and their motivations and stuff like that?
No, it's a tight bond. I think what kind of Tom Hardy did in that one was as much as and this is as much as I kind of I found it weird because it doesn't have an attachment to a certain thing, and I just feel like that's the only thing that makes the movie good is their bond and the way they are with each other. I feel like, Hardy plays this frantic dude that has just lost everything and come to a point now where it's like, oh my God, like I'm doing all of this crazy shit because of this symbiote, but I've got nothing but love for this symbiote as well because he has changed my life in experiences that I've never seen or gone through. You know what I mean? He's made me brave. He's made me strong. He's made me fight. Uh, he's made me eat heads. It's crazy. Yeah, it is crazy. It's
And
crazy.
also,
It's a
in a
good bond.
way,
It's funny. It's good comedy. They have good comedic timing between each other as well. And this is Tom Hardy playing both. You know what I mean?
and in a way, it made him a hero, right? He is like Venom is like a what you call it, anti-hero, vigilante type hero,
Yeah,
and whatnot. No, I agree. I think that was the best thing about this movie. We're gonna be honest about our review and whatever, but that was the best thing about this movie, their relationship and how they grew it, the back and forth, the little, just those silent moments. I remember those scene where Eddie's in the car and he's having that silent moment where Venom's talking to him, and you're just kind of feeling something's gonna. You knew where the movie was gonna take you anyway,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I felt
Exactly.
that was really nice, the relationship between that. But I agree. I think that was the best thing, and I do what I do like about it is because it was in a span of a year. I'm like, cool, that makes sense that you've been on a run for the year, you've been like a vigilante
Mm,
for a year, all that sort of stuff. At least within a year, rather than a 6 year span or whatever. Like this guy's still a bum out and about. It's only been a year. A lot has happened in a
yeah.
year for him, but it's only been a year.
Exactly.
So I think that's
Exactly.
I think that was the best part, I have to say. Let's just quickly go into some of the other characters, just to kind of give them respect and whatnot. So Chiwetel's character,
Yeah,
Strickland, the general. Now, he wasn't involved in none of the other movies, right? If I'm correct. Obviously, listen, if you want to throw out like multiverse out there, he was Baron Mordo in Doctor Strange. Cool. In
that's
this
right.
universe, he's a different character. Through these movies, they've already acknowledged that this is a different timeline, which was great. I appreciate that. What did you think of Strickland's character? Was it like, what would you think of his character in this movie? Did it mean anything? Was it just there to have a military guy to, put his military stance on things? Like, what was your thoughts?
There's a couple of characters that didn't need to be in this movie, but I think he plays a crucial part
You do?
because
Okay.
he plays the humanity part of the we don't know why the fuck these symbiotes are here. You know, they need to understand that. So it's yeah, I think he plays a crucial part, to be honest. Some of it is a bit too much, I feel like, but he's the army guy, I want to run this thing because I don't trust these symbiotes. And who
Mm.
would? If there's no clear indication of why they're here for, and until we saw that scene where they were like, we fled, man, because of this character, you know what I mean?
Mm.
So yes, I think he plays a crucial part because he plays that other side of humanity that are unsure about why certain things happen and why they're here. So I think sometimes in storytelling you need that character there because it gives you the kind of the breakdown of how good and bad works, bro. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, because
because he's still
scientists,
kind of a bad guy.
yeah, well, he's just aggressive, right? In a
Yeah,
sense, without knowing,
yeah,
he just wants to protect Earth or protect the US or whatever it is. He's the opposite of science, right? Like in the sense that scientists are just curious. They want to know more. They want to dig in deep. They want to get anything without really acknowledging the dangers that it could bring. Whereas the army guy, the army general, is always like, danger first, protection first, before we get into that stuff. If I sense any sense of danger, I want to eliminate this. Where scientists are like, no, 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 no. If you eliminate it, then we'll never know and whatnot. So I guess he's the other side of science, which was, I guess, necessary to balance off the scientists and their characters. I mean, talking about them, the scientists, we'll talk about like just Juno Temple, who played Dr. Teddy Payne. I mean, what did you think of her character? I mean, 'cause she was the opposite side of that. She was a scientist, the main scientist of this movie. What did you think of her character? I mean, because I know I got my thoughts.
I don't think she was needed.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, I don't think she was needed. She had this story that I don't know. It's not enough time to connect. It. I connected with more people on that the family than her characters.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
You know what
Because
I mean?
her one, I feel like they tried to force this thing with her brother, all that sort of stuff.
Mm.
Like there was no need for that. She's just a scientist. There was no need for her brother, like her brother wanted to work for NASA or whoever it was, and then he died because of lightning and her arm fit. Like none of that. I mean, like I don't know. I couldn't figure out what's the
I felt
connection with
like
her
that was the
arm.
lizard story.
Oh, almost, right? Yeah, exactly. And then you had the guy who played the lizard. I forgot I just mentioned his name, but he was in it. I don't know if there's a connection there or whatnot.
There's no
Um,
connection. They
right.
didn't
So,
make it a
I mean,
connection
I
there,
don't know if it was
but
like a spoiler. I mean, like meaning not like a spoiler, like an Easter egg type of thing. But to me, I was like, okay, the arm, her brother, what is the point of that storyline? Like, just if you're gonna
yeah.
put her in there, just put her in there as a head scientist. But what was the necessary for that storyline? Didn't make no sense to me personally. Maybe I just didn't get it, but. I didn't see no value to that. I agree. I didn't see no value to her. There's value to her character. I just didn't see no value in the backstory. Just let her be the scientist and whatnot.
Mm.
Um, just a quick update or character development on Null. I mean, we didn't get much into his character, but just to kind of talk about who he is before we move on, was so Null is also known as the God Symbiote, right? So he's like this entity in Marvel Comics, created by Donny Cates and Ryan Stigma. So
Hmm.
born from the void, from existing before the universe. So now Null World wields control over darkness and aims to return the cosmos to emptiness. So after being awakened by the Celestials' creation of the universe, Null forges an all-black necro sword and began a war against the gods. So this we're gonna go into spoiler and Easter eggs, but that links to Thor: Love and Thunder. But we'll talk about that
Hmm.
later. So he created the symbiote race as an extension of his will, aiming to spread darkness and chaos. Eventually, his creations turned on him, imprisoning him within the symbiote home world, Clytar. I don't know if I said that right. After eons of captivity, now breaks free, setting out to reclaim his power and wreak havoc on Earth. His storyline introduced him as a terrifying, godlike figure with immense influence over Venom and the entire symbiote mythos. So that's his
Hmm.
backstory from the comics and whatnot. In the movie, I guess there was cut a little bit there. He was played by Andy Serkis, by the way.
That's right.
So that was confirmed. So he played by him. So I mean, we'll get into him later. Moving on to visual effects and action sequence. So okay, so this is a big one with this movie because a lot of it is CGI and action and stuff like that. What did you think when looking at Venom and even comparing for the last couple of movies? Do you think there was an improvement in the symbiote's CGI in seeing Null, in seeing the action? What did you think of the visual effects and action sequences?
Listen, they're good. They are good, and I don't think they've enhanced. That's just me being honest. It's quite similar to when it first came out. Uh, but everything looks kind of seamless now. You can see it's brighter. It looks good. They do, most of the Venom shots in the first one were in night, so that looks really good. But now you got Venom during the day,
Mm,
so there's this weirdness to him still. It just feels like he feels quite light on the screen. He doesn't have that heftiness. Like when you look at it in the comic books, he has this heavy feel to himself.
mm.
And Eddie Brooke as well. Uh, it's just this. Yeah, it just didn't work well. The CGI is all right. It's fine, bro. Like it for me. Like I don't even look at that. As long as it entertained me and it doesn't take me out the story, I'm good with it. And it did that. So. But I didn't feel like there was any enhancements. But there was some really cool scenes in there, though. I gotta say, there was some cool scenes, and even the monsters that Knull sent over, yeah, they were decent. I just don't think they were needed. What was needed, well, we'll get to it anyway. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I agree. I agree. I think the CGI has always been the same. He's always had this, I guess you could say symbiote, but watery, moist looking,
yeah,
like
yeah,
flexible structure and whatnot. So from his perspective, like I've seen it, I guess I'm not looking for like like realism. You could obviously tell it's
yeah.
CGI.
That's right.
I mean, I do think that we'll get into it. The dance scene, I think it looked off there, in my opinion.
Mm.
That looked off. His movement, everything just looked off on that
Yeah, he
scene.
just looked a bit
Personally.
floppy. Yeah,
Yeah, in my opinion. I mean, the action was great. I think the last scene of action with all the symbiotes, and we'll get into that later, which I thought that was fun. It was entertaining. Whether it
yeah,
was like oh my God, all the symbiotes getting together like the Avengers type of team up it wasn't that, but it was just like, okay, this is cool. This is cool. All the different symbiotes getting involved, and stuff like that. So that was cool. Some of the action with the military guys was okay. I didn't think there was too much around that. Nothing too groundbreaking, in my opinion. I do think, like, even when Venom was taking over the horse and some of the other characters, like, it's okay. I wouldn't say that was amazing. That was the best thing ever. I was like, yeah, that was cool. That was all right. It served a little purpose um,
yeah.
at the time, I guess. So yeah, that was just kind of like the action. I'm just trying to think. The end action scene was okay. I wouldn't say it was like I said, groundbreaking. It was just kind of like cool. It was fun to see some of the Venoms um,
Yeah.
in there. All right, well, moving on to the themes and the tone. So, what do you think of the tone of the movie? Like, such of the elements. Like, you think it was darker? Was it still comedy aspect more than anything? Was it humorous? Was it like what do you think of the tone? I think they kept the same tone as the last three movies. Do you think the tone changed? Which I personally think is a kind of like humorous anti-villain vigilante story. That kind of tone.
Hmm.
What do you think?
Mm. No, you're right. I think that the tone has been the same throughout all of the movies, which is fine. Uh, yeah, the tone is fine. The tone has been quite similar throughout all, and Tom had kept that same Eddie Brock for the whole time as well. So there was nothing changed there, and even the tone of the movies, they're all the same. So they've got that comedy stroke action stroke, yeah, comedy stroke action, yeah.
If I was to compare it to the three Spider-Mans that we've had, right? Tom Holland is obviously the new one, Andrew Garfield, and
Mm.
Tobey Maguire. In my opinion, if you was to say what tone would it suit best, I would say it's the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man tones. For some reason, I would say, and I know everyone wanted him to show up in these movies, and we'll get into that. But if you was to compare it to one of those three Spider-Man tones, which one do you think it fits into, or would fit into better?
You're right. I think the yeah, I genuinely think the Andrew Garfield one. Yeah, I think the Andrew Garfield one would actually suit that. I think Andrew Garfield would work really well with that. Definitely. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely Andrew Garfield. But we almost had it with Tom.
Almost.
So
Well, you never know. We will never know what can
yeah,
happen in the
exactly.
future. All right. Well, look, let's move on to the pacing and narrative structure. So this is, I think, is an important part, and this is where I think we're going to be a lot more honest. We've already been honest as much as possible, right? So, I mean, just about how this story unfolds, right? The pacing, the plots, and all the thing. Whether it keeps the audience, like, kept us engaged. Like I do. Okay, it started off with the Null King, that little opening scene with him. Okay, cool. You already within the first opening scene. I think you've done a great job to just kind of say, all right, this is what this movie's about. This guy's trying to get free, and we realize Venom is the Codex. Done,
Yeah.
right? Cool. The movie, all right, it does. I think the pace is okay, right? Especially he's trying to make his way to like New York, and he's kind of on the run and everything like that. I think that sort of pacing was okay. The fact that he couldn't turn full symbiote, or when he did turn full symbiote, is when those monsters will be able to detect him and find him. So
Yeah.
that kind of like story was okay. The scientist, I'm not gonna lie, right? Some of the stuff in the science lab stuff, I don't know. I kind of just wanted to see more Eddie and Venom, right? So some
Yeah,
of the stuff in the
same.
science lab, yeah, and that backstory with the symbiotes there, for me was a little bit like, okay, cool. Can you move on, please? Like that was my personal opinion. I just wasn't interested as much in those other symbiotes. I kind of wish that in the past movies they already introduced this lab. Right. And by the way, this lab was
Yeah.
Area 51, which we all know in this in the real world, it's supposed to be, when aircraft crashed and whatever, right? It's a military space base or whatever. I kind of wish they build up this military and all the other symbiotes like being captured in the previous movie. So you kind of be like, oh yeah, cool. But to just bring it in, I was like, okay, whatever. You've been collecting them for the last couple of years. I got it. Um, for me, real quick, and then I'll pass it over to you, bro. The one part of the story and the pacing and all that really kind of annoyed me. And listen, I'm no expert in making movies, but was that last dance with Miss Chen, now played by Peggy Lou, right? She was in the other movie. She was always the shopkeeper and whatnot. I get it that you want to put her back into this movie, find a role for her. Cool. I mean, even if you didn't, with all respect, she's not a memorable character, but she's one of those, little side characters. She even played a little cameo in Into the Spider-Verse, right? Remember when
Mm.
Polka Dot? So okay, I get it. Cool. So you add her in, but that last dance scene, knowing that Venom, if you transform into full Venom, that monster's coming. Like to me, it just didn't make sense. Venom was the one saying that we shouldn't go to full form unless I need to save you or whatever to avoid that. But he does it for a last dance, and that scene for me, all I saw was it to just move the story forward because it got him captured and they go to the science lab and then it starts off the last end scene. So that scene was only there to move the story forward. And I was like, that was, for me personally, that was basic. I'm like, why wasn't it more heroic? Like something happened to Eddie, so
Exactly.
Venom had to take him over, something, and then look after him and save him, rather than he just wanted to get a last dance, which was the title of the movie. I thought that was kind of basic. And I have to be honest, like for me, when I say this with all respect, like I think some of the useless character stories I have to say, like Ryan's infant Martin character, so the dad, the hippie dude, the guy who played Lizard in the other movies. Juno Temple, we said that the who played Teddy Payne, the scientist, and Clark Bacco, who played Sadie, who I think was the other scientist. Sadie was the other scientist, I think.
Hmm.
Um, in my opinion, I was just like, there was a bit of like story and screen time wasted with those characters. But what was your perspective on the story, the narrative, and the structure and the pacing and stuff?
Exactly what you said there, bro. Every single thing there. I'm not going to say anything else bad. I didn't think we needed that story. Like, it was a nice, sweet moment, when he gave him the Snickers and he goes, I like chocolate. Like, that was quite nice. There are some moments where you feel like, okay, but I feel like it displaces the movie. And as you said, even though it's a kind of comedy action, it does too much humor we're getting at the moment now, which is, yes, not fan service, but trying to keep the audience still engaged. But it's like you can make a really powerful, good story when you got something like The Dark Knight, bro. That shit ain't got no happy moments in there, man. That is nothing but my man going through some shit. And it works. It connects with the audience. Did fucking millions in the box office. It's one of the cult classic comic book movies ever made. I wouldn't even class it as a comic book movie. It's a absolutely fucking banger of a movie. But I don't know what it is with these characters where you feel like you have to do this because you can read the comic books, bro. You know, they're dark.
Mm.
Venom's dark, man. He goes like Eddie Brock is suffering, man. But they don't really show that part of like what he's going through. You know what I mean? Like they gave it a bit of a comedic twist, which I was like, he's supposed to be this really, blasé kind of reporter, and now you've turned him into this little pansy, which I've accepted. But yeah, yeah, that's me, bro. I just feel like we've got so many other characters in there that just didn't need to be in there. And you make a movie fully focused on one character, and like they did in The Dark Knight, it's based on Bruce Wayne and his struggles of going through uh of making hard choices. That movie is about making hard choices as a vigilante. And you don't seem to get that with the Venom series, that he just falls into some sort of shit, basically, and then even Knull is pointless, bro. Sorry, I'm gonna have to say that. Knull is pointless. Knull was the most pointless character in this movie. They could have made this film with the monsters alone. They don't need to
Mm,
introduce Knull.
I have to
They
disagree.
didn't need to introduce him.
Well, I have to disagree if they use him further. Like if this was a begin like a teaser of him, because there's a potential chance they could use him further, then I wouldn't say he's pointless. But if he's just in this movie one and done, this is the final Venom movie, and you just introduced this guy, and we'll get to the end credit scenes later, then I'm gonna be like, all right, that was pointless. But if there's plans to use him and in the future, then there could be something. I have to agree. Look, if you're gonna deviate away from the comics, totally cool, right? Trying
Mm.
something new. We know it doesn't 100% work. So I don't know why you were still trying to stick to that formula of trying to completely deviate from the comic. But you gave no excuse for like a Spider-Man to show up and say, Venom, I gotta stop you. Right? You gave no excuse for him to hate Spider-Man or even any involvement of Spider-Man. So I know this is not a Spider-Man
Mm.
movie. I get it. But the fact that you got no reason to bring in a Spider-Man, I was just kind of like, you got to give us something, like, you know what I mean? Because the comics was about that, right? Yes, he had this. Eddie Brooke and Venom both had a vendetta against Spider-Man, right? And Peter Parker. You had none of that in this movie. You'd even give us a little bit of an excuse to have that. So that's what I feel. And I feel like, yeah, when you are giving us multiple different characters in the movie and other stuff, and you're trying to put human elements of it, the kid, the chocolate, that family. Okay, cool. But then you take it too far. Like, okay, the family was done. You left them in Vegas. Leave it. They end up in Area 51 again. The whole ending scene with them. I'm like, no. He has to go up and save them. I'm like, no, no need. Right at the very end, the father shoots the big monster thing or whatever. Okay, maybe it could have been the military guy because the military guy, okay, he made a big sacrifice, but I'm just kind of like, there was no need to add them in extra to kind of, I don't know, build something with them. There's no need. So that was my thought of like the pacing and all that sort of stuff. I mean, look, let's move on to like comparison to the previous films and other Marvel entities. I think we kind of touched on that a little bit. I mean, I would say in comparison to the previous Venom movies, I mean, look, Carnage one was, I think there was a lot of disappointment there just because of Carnage, because of Woody Harrelson. I think there was so much more you could have done to that movie. So in regards to that one, I would say this one's a bit better. I say the first one was the best one just because it was a new introduction, new relationship building. You're like, cool. This one I wouldn't say, but even that one wasn't like the best movie. Comparing it to the MCU, and listen, like I don't think it fits in well with the MCU. Um,
Well,
it,
maybe recent MCU movies.
okay, yes, you're right.
Maybe recent MCU movies. I have to, yeah, I have to say that, yeah, because the recent MCU movies, some of them, they haven't captured us. So I would say it's on the same level.
Mm. And I feel like Sony, obviously, they have to do these movies because they got a contract, right? They got a contract that they have to produce movies at the Spider-Man universe. Otherwise, if they don't, they lose that contract. And obviously, they're trying to
Yeah.
keep this IP, this Spider-Man IP, for as long as possible because it's profitable. They bought it for 25 million or something like that. Now it's worth billions,
Hmm.
right? Um, I feel like the best thing they could do, in my opinion, because of their track record. I'm not talking about just this movie. Think about Madam
Mm.
Web. Think about the vampire one was a Morbius. Think about all the Spider-Man, except the Spider-Mans because they were decent. But the track record's not great. You got Craven the Hunter coming out. We don't know. Like maybe just do a deal with Disney. Just say, look, man, you guys make the movie, and I don't know, make a deal like you did with Spider-Man. All this talks about the Sinister Six with who? Sinister Six with who? Where's Spider-Man? Like, who are you gonna do the Sinister Six with? What's the point building them up when there is no Spider-Man? Um,
Exactly.
but yeah, like that was just like, I guess like, in comparison, it is what it is, basically. I guess there's no comparison. It's just like on the same level. Let's go into some fan service and Easter egg, because this is where things can get fun and you can just appreciate some of these little things. So, first of all, let's start off with the two end credit scenes and talk about those, right? So we had two end credit scenes in this movie, and this was supposed to be the last dance, but there's a possibility of maybe more. So first one was Knull is free. So,
Hmm.
that's one where I'm kind of like, cool, maybe you might use him for the future. There is some sort of multiverse thing with Knull as well. So, because he was able to portal his monsters around the universe, right? So I feel like there's something there, and they could possibly use him, bring him into the MCU. I don't know, but there's something there. I was a bit confused on how he was free. I mean, I thought Venom was the Codex, and did Venom say if one of them? Or Venom did say if one of them dies. No, the only way to get rid of the Codex was for one of them to die, right? So Venom seems like he died, and we'll get to that in a second. So I don't know how he got free at the end. But he gave a little speech, something about, Earth, I'm coming for you type of thing, in a very evil sort of way. The other end credit scene was again in Area 51 when it was all destroyed and everything. The bartender guy who was played by what's his name? Cristo Fernandez. So he was the
Yeah,
bartender. Just a character they put in there, nothing. But he comes out in the destructive thing. Then you see this cockroach coming to next to one of those symbiote cases type of thing, almost maybe indicating that Venom or another symbiote's alive and it's going to take over the cockroach, which will take over the bartender dude, which will come back to Eddie. I don't know like how you want to take that, but they put that in there, just kind of indicating maybe something's alive and it's gonna come back. I don't know. So that was that. So that was the end credit scenes. Considering this was the final movie, you didn't really finish it finally. I don't really like that. Like you got to
yeah,
make it clear. Like if it's the final movie, make it the final. If it's not, indicate that. Some of the other
yeah,
Easter eggs,
exactly.
yeah. Some of the other Easter eggs, just to go through all the symbiotes that showed up, and these are the ones that I found online and whatnot. So obviously
Hmm.
Venom, you had Lady Venom at one point,
Hmm.
Detective Mulligan, who bonded with two symbiotes, right? The first one, when first one was Toxin, and
Yeah,
then a new one called Tail symbiote. Then you
yeah,
had Agony, who was the doctor, who was Agony and Doctor Payne.
which
You
is
had
yeah, yeah.
yeah, then you had Lasher as Sadie Christmas, which was the other scientist, the Christmas one. You had
Excuse me, yeah.
Page, who was the big security guy. You had Hybrid, which was the one that merged into two. Then I think you had like there was other ones I saw called Sleeper, Scorn. There was a big mother or Red Goblin, the one with fire. Looks
Mm.
like there was one that looked like Anti-Venom. Then you had some other ones like a blue symbiote, like two blue symbiotes, and then you had Null. Now, that end scene that we talked about, the end action scene with all the symbiotes in it, yes, it was cool, but they got smashed, man. Like one thing I came out of this movie, I was like, how the hell did those symbiotes contain Null when they can't even fight one of these big monsters? Like they're getting smashed by this one big monster. I can't remember what the monster's called, but how the hell did they contain? Unless there was like 1,000 of them that contain Null. But I'm just like, they got smashed, and none of them really. I mean, you could say that what do you call it? Lasher had some good screen time, and she was kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Agony. Okay, she had one little scene at the end. She saved the Christmas lady and had some speedy powers or whatnot. But the rest of them just got smashed, really. I mean, they had little ins and outs, but I don't know. In my opinion, it was like it was cool. You put them all in there, but they got no. It was like, do you know? It reminded me of Multiverse of Madness, where the Illuminati just got smashed. Basically, it was one of those ones. That's how it felt. The other Easter
Yeah.
egg, real quick. Actually, yeah. What did you think? What did you think about those? About that?
For me, bro, it's quite bad even for a fan to say I just watched it for what it was.
So none of
And
those
that's like
Venom
it's coming to a point
did,
now. Like I remember like before getting bare excited, bare moist, and they're not giving me that feeling no more, bro. Is that bad? That it's
what?
got to that point that where it's saturated so much that it's taken the fun out of like being excited to see even Easter eggs or fan service stuff now, where you're like, you know what?
It depends. So Venom and Wolverine had you off your seat, right? So it just depends on it, right? If you do it right,
Venom
if you
and
do the move.
Wolverine, eh?
Did I say Venom? Sorry,
Yeah,
Wolverine
man.
and Deadpool and Wolverine.
That's what I'm saying. Like that got hype on it, but that's still it's not a great movie.
What, Deadpool and Wolverine?
Yeah, it's not a great movie for me to say, you know what, I wanna like I think it will have a little bit of rewatchability to it. But this is me being honest. Like, I still love the movie, but it's not. It didn't get me moist. Venom didn't get me moist like that did. It doesn't have that hype. It
Well,
doesn't.
Deadpool
It did
Wolverine
none
was,
of the first two movies. You know what I mean? So, but that Deadpool and Wolverine, you got Hugh Jackman coming back after ages. You know, Ryan Reynolds' charismatic ways. The marketing on that is on point, and then the cameos they gave us and everything was amazing. So, like, you want stuff like that maybe for this type of movie where it'd be like, but you didn't even let me care.
yeah, I
We
mean, look,
cared for, even though Electro movies were basic and Electro was basic in that Ben Affleck one, we still care. Yeah. You bring back Blade, we care. He was the first one to start this MCU shit. You know what I mean? Uh,
hmm
uh, Remy LeBeau. They've been talking about Remy LeBeau for ages. To give Channing Tatum that chance to actually play the character he's always wanted to play, praises to him, bro. He's the highlight of the movie. You know what I mean? And then X-23. So like you gave us characters that we, except Remy LeBeau, we didn't even know we were going to care for him because he was
yeah,
as soon as he came on the
never
screen,
seen
we
it
were like
before.
fucking Channing Tatum. You know what I mean? That's brilliant.
Yeah.
But the other three, we already know what we've seen with them, so
Well,
of course we're going to enjoy that more.
Deadpool Wolverine was a 10 out of 10 fan service. 10 out of 10,
Mm,
right? But yes, when you say it wasn't a good movie, I get you in regards to, because like Dark Knight was a great movie, right? You can put
yeah.
that out there. But for fan service, yeah. I mean, with the Venom ones, I get it, man. Do you know what would have put everyone out their screen, out their seat? Fucking put
Mm,
Spider-Man in there. Andrew Garfield, make him an appearance as Spider-Man
exactly.
or even as Peter Parker. You would have got everyone out of their seats. But you like all the other Venoms, especially if you're not, and I don't know Venoms off the top of my head, right?
Yeah.
So for me, even as someone who loves the comic book world, I was like, oh, cool, all the other Venoms. But the regular person's not going to be like, oh, that's that. People can be like, oh my God, that's Spider-Man. You get a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old in there, he's going to be like, Spider-Man. He could watch the whole movie thinking, what the hell is this? And then get to Spider-Man and freak out, right? But in this movie, you had none of that, right? The only other, and we'll get into it. The only other thing, I'm just moving on with the spoiler, what do you call it, Easter eggs and
Mm,
stuff. You had the Necro sword, which we spoke about earlier, which links to
yes, that's right.
God, Love and Thunder, Thor, Love and Thunder, with the God Killer. What was his name? The God Butcher. Gore, the God Butcher.
Go
He
the
had that
Butcher.
sword.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. That could have been a good link if they worked that out. I mean, it's a link, but they should have worked out before. Anyway, the snap, they spoke about that again, which is cool because that's a big thing in the MCU. That's when the MCU was
Hmm.
proper hype. The snap, the purple alien, obviously, which is Thanos. New York, finally, they mentioned New York because Venom's supposed to be in New York, right? With Spider-Man and everything. So
Hmm.
there was that little connection that you threw in there, but you never got it after 3 movies. We never got anything. And then the codex, I put what did I get? The codex, the main reason Venom and Eddie Brook are being targeted by Knull is based on the codex, which is hidden inside of them, and this is the key to feeling Knull. Why is this a thing? Oh, sorry. So in the comics, okay. So in the comics, Dylan Brock is a human symbiote hybrid who adopts the alias Codex after falling under the sway of the dark god Knull. And yes, in case it wasn't clear, both Eddie and Venom are Dylan's father. Okay, so there's a little Easter egg there based on the comics. I found
Okay.
that online somewhere. But okay, cool. Well, look, that was all the Easter eggs. That was our thoughts on the movie. I mean, look, final verdicts. Overall, just kind of giving the film. I don't want to say a rating, but final thoughts, enjoyment. Would you recommend it? Would you want to see Venom back? If you see Venom back, what kind of take would you want to take? Is it a must-watch for Venom fans or MCU fans? What's your final verdict, bro?
I would never steer away anybody from the cinema because I think it's a great uh, way to transcend somewhere else. Yeah. Whether the movie's good or bad, but as long as it's entertaining, which this was, bro, it's still an entertaining film. There are things that I maybe not like about it, but I'm gonna give praises to the people that put the work in. You know what I mean? Uh, I would give it a solid. I'm gonna give it a solid 6 for entertainment. Other than that, there's nothing else to bring in there. MCU fans, you're not missing out on anything. It's weird because now you're coming to a point now where you're like, I can miss this, and it's kind of pointless to any of the timelines or the universe, and it's quite difficult to kind of even me fathoming that as well, where I'm thinking, excuse me, sorry guys, late night. Yeah, where I love this stuff. I want to know more about this stuff, but I just want them to make good movies, bro. I'm not talking about a 10 out of 10. Just make it darker. There's nothing wrong with making movies darker, and I think Venom is a character which should have stayed darker, but you guys made it so light-hearted that just became something to watch, and people watched it because Tom Hardy, and then can't blame Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy's good at what he does. Uh, well, yeah, yeah. Go watch it. Listen, I'm not going to stop you from going cinema. I'm not one to make decisions for you. If you find out it's shit, then my apologies. But uh, yeah, I would say still go watch it in the cinema. It's still a good spectacle of an entertaining movie, but for me, it just didn't hit the right buttons.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was someone who went to the cinema and paid for it. I mean, I was just interested. I mean, I've already invested in the character. I do like Tom Hardy. I think he's awesome in anything he does. I was invested in Venom. I'm a fan of Venom, like, and he's in the Spider-Man universe and whatnot. And I think
Mm.
Venom fans, I'm thinking of Dax at the moment because I remember he was a big Venom fan. He enjoyed the first one, and I'm pretty sure someone like a fan would have enjoyed it just to see Venom on the big screen. If you get deep into it with the comics, maybe you might not as enjoy it because you might nitpick it too much. But as a Venom fan, I think you definitely just enjoy this version of Venom on the big screen. I mean, that's what it was for me. I did go in with some kind of high hopes of maybe you introduce Spider-Man just because of you seeing what kind of pop that could bring. But there was nothing there. Like, just why not put Andrew Garfield or someone in there just to get a pop? That would have been a highlight. Even if it was just pointless for him to be in there, it would have just been a highlight.
Yeah,
Again, I would
definitely.
recommend people. I mean, like, yes, I've been one of them guys, honestly, that I've kind of stepped away from the cinema a little bit. One, because of my experiences here in Dubai, it's not the best experiences. But two, it's just like, yeah, do I really want to waste money on certain movies? They're coming out in digital so quick, especially if a movie doesn't do too well. It comes out digital within a month. So it's like, can you just wait? So I'm one of those guys where I can wait, but
Yeah,
because it was Marvel and comic books, it's just enjoyable. I did want to just be there and watch it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so yeah, I mean, look, scoring, yeah, I think six is a good score. I was gonna go with like five, just as a good balance or whatnot. But six is a good score just because of the entertainment, because of Venom, some of the comedy elements. That heroic element is always nice, when you just
yeah,
see some hero stuff going on, which is always nice. The sacrifice by Venom at the end, that was touching. Like
yeah. It was.
when Eddie Brock had that little moment at the end, he was going down memory lane. There is, I did feel a little bit something because it has been about 6 years of Venom. I think we've had in
Yeah,
his
yeah. That's
life
right.
a year, and it did bring, and I think they built up enough of a relationship with them two within those three movies for me to be like, oh, that is a bit heart touching. Then he goes to New York, he sees the Empire State Building, sorry, Statue of Liberty, and he
Yeah,
says,
yeah.
I'll always remember you, buddy. Like, I did feel like, you know what, that was a nice touch, even though maybe you could have been, it was cheesy or whatnot. I was like, that was a nice touch. I felt that. So I have to say, like, from that element, it was nice.
Yeah, no, it is a nice touching, bro. For anybody who works on a project like that, to go through memory lane and kind of think about you played this character for I think it was 7 years, bro. Like past 7 years, he's played this character, had these movies out. Must be some great movies. And bro, listen, a lot of people connected with this as well. A lot of people enjoy it. Like there's a fandom for it. Uh, so praises. It's a good entertaining watch, man. As I said. Uh. Oh, sorry, bro. Yeah.
Cool. Well,
Ugh.
look, guys, that was
Mm,
our review on Venom. What did you think? Did you like it? Did you enjoy it? Please, put your thoughts in the comments. Give us your perspective. If there was anything that we missed, put it in the comments. Let us know what sort of
mm.
stuff we missed. We deep dived into as much as we could remember. Do a little bit on online research to see what Easter eggs and stuff there are. There's fantastic people out there that go out and find all these sort of things. So shout outs to them. But yeah, guys, that was our review of Venom: The Last Dance. Last thing. Would you want to see him back, or do you want to see a different variation back in the MCUs, for example? Or in the Sonyverse before we finish up?
No, I don't want Sonyverse movies no more, man. None of them connect. It's all disjointed. They're horrible. We've had some of the worst movies come out with them. Sorry to say. I know a lot of people put work into them. But like after Madame Web, I was like, why are you doing this? Like, so Craven the Hunter is scaring the hell out of me, bro. But
Mm.
the trailer looks interesting. But all trailers look interesting until you see the movie. So let's see what happens. If there was another version, I would like to see Agent Venom, which was Flash Thompson, if I'm right, who's a vet, and I would like to see that in the MCU. I think that will play really well. So that's a good kind of protagonist to have. Flash Thompson, Peter Parker's friend, ends up going to the army, get his leg blown off, right?
I can't remember the full story of it,
Yeah,
but
I
I
think he
think
gets
so.
his
Yeah.
leg blown off, and then they use Venom, and then he does missions on the side and stuff. That's a good way. That's like a good anti-villain story. Not Venom. Venom has never been like even in the comic books, even though he conflicts with himself a lot of the time, he's still a bad guy. He's not an anti-hero. He never. I don't think he is in the comic books an anti-hero. He's just a badass guy. Later on, they've turned him into this anti-hero. But in the beginning, I wanted that darkness, man. That was supposed to be like, what's the word? It's like he's suffered mental issues. You know what I mean? He's suffering mental issues. He's suffering mental health. So you didn't give me that, and that's where it disconnected with me. So yeah, that's my thoughts, bro.
Cool, man. Well, look, I would just love to see him in the MCU. I'm not gonna lie. I would love to see a
Mm.
Venom Spider-Man thing. They teased it a little bit in No Way Home, where there was a little bit of the Venom in that universe. So there is a Venom symbiote
Yeah,
in that universe, which is cool. So that's where I would like to see more of Venom. And if you know what, if it does turn out to be what's his name, man? Why have I gone blank? Who's the main actor? Come on, G.
Hardy.
Hardy, bloody hell. If it is Hardy, I would not be upset with that. I would actually really like that, but just give a whole different variation of Venom. That's my opinion. But yeah, guys, that was our review. Hope you enjoyed. Kibler man, take us out, man.
All right, guys, as always, massive thank you for the support on the channel. You guys are absolutely awesome. There's about 70% of you that come back to the channel but are not subscribed, man. Come on, so hook a brothers up, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, drop a comment, whether you enjoyed this review or not. There's a dislike button, click on that if you disagree. And yeah, subscribe to the channel, guys. Subscribe to the channel. Share the video as well if you've got friends and family that will enjoy us geeking out about movies and pop culture. We get up to so much, and check out the community page. We post a lot of the stuff that we get up to. Guys, make sure you're following us on our social media pages. Instagram, X, and Twitter. We put all the behind the scenes and what we're up to and what we're doing, and other cool things that we get up to. And guys, please donate, 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 donate. We've got donation links in our bios on our social media pages, and below in the description below as well, for Palestine and Lebanon. All right, guys, one love.
One love, we out. Peace.
Peace.